Everybody says that they want smart people. What they really want is people that can decide, people that have discernment. This is the Work Ready Show. My name is Michael Campbell. I've spent my career hiring, leading, and being accountable for outcomes in large tech organizations, both internationally and globally. And this show here exists to slow down and take a look at what's happening today in hiring here in the US. We want to make sense or make work visible where decisions get made. The most important skill that I believe is critical right now and going forward is judgment. It's not coding, it's not analysis, it's not communication. All those skills matter. Communication especially is really important because it's a part of judgment. But judgment is something that I believe will come to the top of that list. Because here is the thing. We know that AI can generate answers. It can decide, but it can't decide rather what to trust. It can't decide what assumptions to make. It can't decide what trade-offs should be employed, or what risks are worth taking. That's where judgment comes in. And at the same time, companies are paying a real price for poor decisions. Across any industry, in every industry, hiring leaders are routinely acknowledged that they've made bad hires, often realizing it only after the work begins. And the cost isn't just financial, it can impact productivity, team morale, leadership, and of course, the bottom line. And you don't have to look far to see how important that this is right now. And it's ironic that we're talking about this today in this current climate here in the United States about judgment. Across institutions and systems, decisions are being made under pressure with incomplete information and with real human consequences. Outcomes aren't determined by how much data was available or how polished the response sounded. They are determined by judgment. And when judgment is weak, situations can become very challenging and things can escalate. When judgment is disciplined and proportional and grounded and thoughtful, then trust can be upheld. The stakes may look different, but the skill is the same. Now let's talk a little bit about my own experience. I've seen how important judgment is. I've watched technically strong hires stall once ambiguity took effect and they showed up not having tolerance for ambiguity. They could run the model, and they could produce analysis, but when it comes down to, again, having that discernment, that's when things became challenging for them. Can you pick the right model and why? What are the risks for choosing A versus choosing B? Again, that gap wasn't intelligence, it was just judgment. Here's an insight for you. Output answers the question, can you produce something? And of course, AI makes that easier for us right now. But judgment is harder. It forces us to ask a harder question, which is, do you understand what matters and why? Do you understand what trade-offs should be made for the decision that is now being explored and why? Most hiring tools, though, are designed to surface output. We all know that. We talked about that before in a previous episode, how there's layers. And of course, we tend to focus more so on that upper layer, that superficial layer. Resumes list accomplishments. Interviews will reward confidence and fluency, and assessments often measure correctness, not reasoning. Even structured interviews, which research shows are more reliable than unstructured ones, still leave major blind spots when it comes to decision making in context. And AI, unfortunately, is just widening this gap. Again, I don't believe that AI caused this problem, it just revealed it, but it's not helping. Everyone can produce clean work now, and if you have two people with different backgrounds, it's very likely that you might get very similar or even exact resumes because people are using AI, reconciling the job description to produce a resume with the right keywords for that job. Here's another key insight. Judgment doesn't live in isolation. It shows up when things become difficult, when situations become unclear, when constraints collide, when you don't have the data, when you have competing priorities, when there's tension in the room, when two people don't like each other, when you have time pressure, and there can be real consequences because of that. That's when judgment becomes paramount. It's not a nice to have, it's critical. And this is why so many early career hires look strong on paper but struggle once the work becomes messy, once the environment becomes messy. But that's just the reality, and it's not their fault. They've never been evaluated on judgment. They've never seen judgment in that environment before. So they're not going to know. And you're not going to know if they have that skill unless you ask, unless you assess during the hiring process. So if you don't design situations that surface judgment, of course, you're not going to see it. Here's the core issue. We keep hiring for visible output in a world where the invisible skill is what actually drives results. In analytics, operations, education, no matter what, the strongest performers aren't the ones with perfect answers. They're the ones who can say, here's the decision that I made, here's the evidence that I'm using, here's what I have, here are the assumptions that I have. Or they might say, you know what, I don't have the answers, but I believe here's the right person who does. These are all examples of good judgment. But our hiring systems, in many cases, unfortunately, don't ask for that. So if you do hire, I want to ask you, are you evaluating decisions or just deliverables? If you're a leader, a manager, do your systems reward judgment? Or is it just compliance? Or is it just results? And if you're an early career talent, just graduating from college, or if you're looking to change jobs early in your career, I would encourage you to think about explaining your decisions, your work, and if you don't have experience, take on a project that you've done in school, write it in a way that will land to a hiring manager and explain what types of judgment decisions you made, assumptions, trade-offs, so that people can understand how you think. If we want hiring stronger teams and fair access to opportunity, then we have to stop pretending output is enough, because it's not. In an AI-enabled world, output can get attention, but it's going to be judgment that earns trust. Thank you for listening. This is the Work Radio Show. My name is Michael Campbell. We are here trying to make sense of work, where decisions get made. We'll see you next time.